cardinal principles, right? Let me tell you a quick story. It's a very quick story. Y'all mind if I take off my jacket? Okay, good. I'm about to get down, as they say, okay? Y'all remember what that says? Okay. Thank you. Okay. As a judge, as Mr. Brown said, I tried murderers, I tried rapists, I tried robbers. Y'all listen to me 1 second. Before I became a judge, this is my 20th year, I was the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. at 37, 38 years old, whatever that number is. And I saw a lot of kids making a lot of bad decisions, okay? So let me tell you a story real quick. We have to try everything, the civil cases involving Google, Microsoft, and all that. But I also had to try juveniles early in my career, okay? Early in my career, I ran across a young man who was in the 10th grade, couldn't read or write, got arrested 9 times as a juvenile, smoking weed, hanging out, doing all these other bad things, thinking he was cool, right? And I told him, y'all listen, guys, listen very carefully. I told him, couldn't read or write in the 10th grade. I told him the story about these 2 boys that were very bad. This kid had gotten arrested 10 or 11 times, couldn't read or write. And I told him about these other 2 boys that couldn't read or write until they got into high school, that got arrested a number of times. Okay? He was looking at me like I was crazy. I said, look, you're going to learn how to read and write, or I'm going to put you in jail. And he looked at me and said, you're going to put me in jail? Judge, I can't read or write. I said, well, you got a choice, brother. You can either read and write, or you can go to jail. He said, Alex, I'll take read and write for 10, okay? So he wanted to read and write, and he could make it. And he talked to me about what he wanted to do when he grew up, but nobody believed in him, and nobody trusted him, right? And so I talked to him about, hey, look, you got to live your life according to values and principles, right? And so one of the things I talked to him about were cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, uplift, and perseverance. I said, I know 2 boys that are exactly like you. They were criminals. They were real bad kids, or they thought they were real bad kids. They got arrested 10 times. The 11th time, the judge sentenced them to a juvenile hall, and then the judge sentenced them to a boys and girls club. And so the judge said, you guys are terrible shoplifters. What I want to do is make sure that you guys get on the straight path, okay? And so the judge said to these 2 boys, you guys are going to either wind up in jail or dead for the rest of your lives. You're going to wind up in jail for the rest of your lives or dead, okay? And so I'm talking to this young man. Listen very carefully. I was talking to this young man about his conditions of release. I said, if you want me to let you go, right, you got to give me a book report every week. You got a drug test negative every week. In the back of the courtroom, these 2 old ladies stood up and said, hey, Judge, can he drug test on Fridays? And I said, hey, ma'am, I don't know who you are, but I will tell you the day. He said, no, Judge, he needs to drug test on a Friday because that's when you asked us to drug test. You see, mother and grandmother and now grandson, they were all on probation to me, okay? So I'm talking to this young man about trying to get his life together. And we talked about book reports, right? We were talking about you got to have a curfew, you got to go to school, you got to do all these things. And he said, Judge, wait a minute, wait. Judge, before we go any further, what happened to those 2 boys? I said, what 2 boys are you talking about? He said, you know, the ones that were shoplifters and got arrested and all this other stuff, and they got sentenced to a boys club. I said, oh, those 2 boys. We're going to talk about them in a minute. He said, nah, Judge, I want to know about them. What happened to the 2 boys like? They looked just like me. They were heavy set, they were big, and they couldn't do well in school. What happened to them? Are they dead? Did they go to jail? I said, oh, those 2 boys. I said, nah, they're not. One became a doctor. The other one became your judge. You see, that was my brother and I from Vallejo, California. It's not, hey guys, listen, it's not where you came from, it's where you're going. Okay, story's almost over. Every Friday, this young man would come back to my courtroom and he'd read a book report. He's in the 10th, now he's in the 11th grade. The book report went like this, the first one. The dog crossed the street. It was just like that. It was like he was in the 2nd or 3rd grade. Over time, he began to read a little bit more. He began to read a little bit more. Finally, by the 6th month, he read this book about this cat by the name of Thurgood Marshall. Do y'all know who Thurgood Marshall is? Yeah. Young man, who's Thurgood Marshall? Stand up, loud and proud, brother, stand up. No, you raised your hand. Ain't no shame in it. No, that's okay. Who knows who Thurgood Marshall is? Thurgood Marshall was the first black, hey guys, listen. Thurgood Marshall was the first black Supreme Court justice in America. So he said, hey, Judge Rigsby, check it out. There's a cat that you know by the name of Thurgood Marshall. I said, you know who he is? I said, no, who is he? Man, you don't know who Thurgood Marshall is? I said, no. He's a cat that went to law school. He had to go to a black law school called Howard University School of Law because he couldn't get into a white law school in Maryland. I said, really? Tell me about him. He said, Judge Rigsby, discrimination, man. Discrimination, brother judge, discrimination. He said, Judge Rigsby, you need to change that. I said, no, it's your turn to change it, right? He said, bet. He said, Judge Rigsby, I'm gonna need a letter of recommendation one day. All right, cool. 1 year goes by. He's on probation to me for 5 years. 2 years go by, 3 years go by, 4 years go by. He's still on probation. He's doing well. He asked me for some money. He said, Judge, I need $1,000 because I'm working some things out. I said, bro, you ain't gonna take that $1,000 to buy drugs. Nah, Judge Rigsby, I'm working it out. Getting my life together. You see, I got this plan. I said, okay. A 4th year goes by, and then he graduates. He graduated, got his GED, and unbeknownst to me at the time, he went on to college, right? And so he's in college doing great things. I thought, well, okay, barber school, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. My father was a cook at some place called the California Maritime Academy for 50 years. So he went on to school, and then one day he calls me and says, hey, Judge Rigsby, I need that letter of recommendation. I said, letter of recommendation for what? He said, Judge, I'm going to law school. See, I'm going to that law school by the name of Howard University, where that first black Supreme Court justice went. That young man graduated from law school, and he's now a criminal defense lawyer in Washington, D.C. You see, it's not what, yeah, give it up for him. It's not where you came from. I grew up on 1141 Louisiana Street, around the corner from Jack in the Box. It's not where you came from. People ask me, how did I get out? I didn't get out anywhere. This is a city that loved and embraced my brother and I. The Brown family, Osby Davis, who used to be the mayor here, Fillmore Graham. It's a family, it's a community that invested in my brother and I. So you live your life. If you remember nothing else about today, I want you to remember these principles, right? These principles: manhood, womanhood, scholarship, uplift, perseverance. Young lady that's playing with the phone over here, yeah, I'm gonna call you out. Manhood, womanhood, scholarship, uplift, perseverance. You gotta live your life according to some cardinal principles. Okay, so this is the call and response time. Manhood, who knows what it means to be a man? Sir, come on, athlete, stand up, brother, because you look good. You look almost as good as me. Go ahead. What is manhood?